Radio Cardiff 98.7 FM.
And a very good afternoon, Cardiff. It is 4 minutes past 3 o'clock. Jeremy Rees here for the next hour with Cardiff in action. Great to have Tubbs back on air on a Thursday afternoon. It was a great show. And for the next hour, I'm going to be bringing you up to date with some of the latest opportunities to help out in the city of Cardiff. I've got new opportunities for Sova Cymru, for Breast Cancer Care Cymru, for the Horn Development Association, for Headway Cardiff, for Age Concern, and for Ace Cardiff coming your way later on, together with the community news. And our guest today is from, well, almost a Cardiff landmark, the Oxfam bookshop in the city centre. We'll be finding all about how you can volunteer with them as we go on in the next hour. My first guest today is Roger Pratt, who works for the Oxfam bookshop in Cardiff city centre. Welcome to Radio Cardiff, Roger.
Thanks very much, Jeremy.
And you're a long-term volunteer there. For how many years have you been volunteering down at
the Oxfam bookshop in St Mary Street, I'm sure, is well known to many people, although in earlier this year we moved to premises in the Royal Arcade.
Yes.
Because our existing shop in St Mary Street is being renovated.
Yeah.
We were a general Oxfam bookshop, a general Oxfam shop originally, but for the last 11 years we've been a specialist bookshop.
And you've
we
been
do
with
books and music.
Yeah. And you've been with them for that whole time?
Yes, basically.
Wow.
Yeah.
And it's become a bit of a cultural landmark, the Oxfam bookshop, a treasured piece of the architecture of Cardiff. And as you were saying there, you're now in the Royal Arcade, which is a really very beautiful place.
Exactly,
yeah. So, tell us a little bit about why you're there. You're there to raise money for Oxfam.
Yep.
Now, I'm sure most people who are listening to this will be very familiar with Oxfam. It's one of the best-known names in the charity world anywhere in the world. But just to kind of give us a little idea of what Oxfam is using the money that is raised at the Oxfam bookshop for, give us a little bit of a flavour of it.
Yeah. Oxfam began during the Second World War, 70-odd years ago.
Yeah.
And it was formed by a committee of Quakers, actually, in Oxford. And it was called the Oxford Committee for Famine Relief.
Yes.
And they were urging the government in the middle of wartime to make sure that the citizens of Greece, who were suffering very much in the war, had food. It expanded greatly after the war and now operates in 90 different countries all around the world.
Yeah. I mean, situations like we're now hearing about the awful situation in the Philippines, of course, because of the typhoon that's hit there, and the humanitarian disaster in Syria. Those kind of things are what Oxfam uses the money for. Is that right?
Yes, there are three main points that Oxfam focuses on worldwide. There's development work, which was ongoing work over perhaps a period of many, many years to help lift communities out of poverty with long-term sustainable solutions based on their needs. This will be all sorts of things like encouraging training for work, financing work, very much to do with provision of water, sewage, basic things like flush toilets and things like that. And this work goes on and on in, well, as I say, all over the world, in countries you may never have heard of, places like Uzbekistan, Azerbaijan, as well as the more well-known countries.
So going to that bookshop in Cardiff city centre and purchasing books and records and CDs from there actually has a very real knock-on effect in assisting people who are most in need internationally.
Yes, very much so. And the humanitarian work, as you say, is a response to crises. The Philippines is the big crisis at the moment, obviously. And of course there are continuing crises in Syria. We don't see an immediate end to the problems there. And of course we mustn't forget, for example, somewhere like Haiti, where there are still enormous problems after the
I suppose that's one of the things. When we look at newspapers, when we look at the news on the television, obviously the news at the moment is absolutely dominated, as it should be, by the situation in the Philippines.
Yeah.
But there are all kinds of other things which are not appearing in the news and are not appearing in the press because newer stories have grabbed the headlines.
Yeah.
But those people in those situations are still in desperate need of help.
Exactly. Another role that Oxfam fulfills as well is to lobby on behalf of people, to advocate for them as well, by popular campaigning and trying to affect policy decisions of governments and to resolve conflicts at all national, local and international levels. Oxfam works on trade justice, fair trade, education, debt and aid, people's livelihoods, health. We do a lot in providing health support to countries, HIV/AIDS. We also consider things like gender equality, conflict. We campaign for an international arms trade treaty. And of course, as we just said, we address natural disasters. And we're very strong on things like human rights and the difficulties associated with climate change.
Okay. And Oxfam in Wales, in Cardiff, is based in St Mary Street, not far from where the Oxfam bookshop traditionally has been located. And we also must mention that also on St Mary Street is the Oxfam Boutique, which we've had guests in from before, which sells kind of high-end donated garments and also garments that are donated by manufacturers directly, aren't they? That's correct, isn't it?
Yes. And that's been established now for 2011, yes, over 2 years in fact, and does very well, as we do in the Oxfam bookshop.
We're here mainly to talk about the bookshop today, so let's talk about that. You say you've been there for 11 years, and what you do very clearly is sell books.
Yeah.
But in order to do that, you need volunteers to run the shop. Yeah. So what kind of thing would a volunteer in Oxfam bookshop be expected to do in their daily routine?
Well, the responsibilities for people in an Oxfam bookshop would perhaps be sorting through incoming books and identifying books that might be of value, to work on the shop floor, and obviously to have an interest in books and reading is an advantage. We aren't looking for people with specialist knowledge. What we want are people who are prepared to support Oxfam, to identify with Oxfam's aims. And we hope to give people an experience of customer care, working in a retail environment. And certainly our volunteers find that a spell at an Oxfam shop will certainly, enhance a CV, for example.
So, Roger, we've heard about why you're in existence, what you do. It's fairly straightforward, but you do it in really very nice circumstances. Records and CDs on the upper floor, books on the ground floor there in Royal Arcade. It's very busy, obviously, because it's in Cardiff city centre. You're looking for people to join you. So tell us, what kind of process is there? If somebody's interested in being a volunteer in the Oxfam bookshop, what should they do?
I think the best thing to do initially, of course, is to come into the shop and have a look around and get an idea of the sort of things we do, the sort of things we sell. And then if you are interested, to speak to the shop manager and ask what opportunities there are on whichever days. Perhaps pick up an Oxfam shop volunteer application form, which will ask you a series of questions, the obvious ones as well. But there are also some more perhaps technical questions on that form which need to be addressed too. And what we want is people who obviously subscribe to the aims of Oxfam, and what we aim to do around the world. The application form is available at the shop, but of course it's also available on the National Oxfam website. You can find it there and download a copy yourself, and then take that into the shop. And
I'm guessing that you're obviously the opportunities is there to develop skills in customer care if you're looking to develop a career, if you want to go into the retail world. It's good experience for that. But it's also about people, I guess, as well, isn't it? Because obviously you're serving people who are coming into the city centre. You need to be able to communicate with them.
Yes, obviously we look for people who can communicate easily with other people. 99% of our customers are very pleasant.
Yeah.
People who want to help Oxfam. But obviously there's the 1% where you might perhaps need to be a bit more diplomatic and a bit more skillful.
Yeah.
Or if someone comes in and said, have you got a copy of this book? I know it's green. And then you take it from there. But,
Yeah.
it's a very pleasant atmosphere. I think one of the good things about volunteering in Oxfam is we've got the Oxfam Bookshare at least, we've got a very varied volunteer base. We're all ages. I won't give my age, but we have a lot of students as well because we're a university city. We have a lot of students coming through.
40,000 students in the city now. It's incredible.
Yes, that's an awful lot. Yeah. And we employ across Britain. Oxfam employs, well, doesn't employ, but we have 20,000 volunteers.
Yeah.
So it's a big operation.
And in terms of time commitment, so if somebody's interested in volunteering in the shop, how many days a week would they be expected to work there?
Well, that's very much up to negotiation between the volunteer and the shop manager. It will depend on how much cover the shop manager needs at the time. And obviously on how much time the volunteer has got to commit. So again, you can't give a hard and fast answer to that. It's a matter of negotiating and discussing with the shop manager. Typically, I'd say that most people come in for a day a week.
Yeah.
Some who are very enthusiastic and perhaps have specialist skills will come in for more time than that.
And you're open 7 days a week and on Thursday evenings?
Yes, up till Christmas.
Okay.
Sundays as well, 11 till 4.
Right.
So this is, it's a lot of time to cover.
Okay, before we let you go, Roger, tell people how they can get in touch.
You can get in touch either by coming to the shop, which is probably the best thing to do, because then you can see the shop and see how it operates. Our telephone number is Cardiff, that's 029 2022 2275. You can contact us via the Oxfam website as well. And if you go through the national Oxfam website, you have the opportunity to download the application form as well.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, Roger, thank you very much indeed for coming in and telling us all about the Oxfam Bookshop. We wish you well and hope you have a successful Christmas shopping period there. And by the way, if anybody is interested in donating books or records or CDs to the bookshop, the best thing to do is to get there before 10 o'clock in the morning because you can park before 10.
Sure. Yeah, ring the shop anyway.
Ring the shop ahead.
Yeah.
Thank you very much indeed, Roger, and all the very best.
Thanks very much.
Radio Cardiff.